Hi, I'm Charlene Bowden with Dr. Anita Davis Defoe. Welcome to It's Just Us. If you're joining us again, you know in our first segment we talked about entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
social enterprise, and how people can get educated and get trained to help in sustaining different nonprofits, faith-based organizations, possibly even your own business, just to have that ground level financing and information so that you can have that place to build upon and to keep going. And as I mentioned on the previous broadcast, Anita does so much in the world. And part of what she does as well, and that she does well, is to train others and to empower others and to coach others. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, Anita. And going back just a little bit to the social enterprise part of it, um, one thing you mentioned is that you like to share that information with other people. Sort of, kind of like the one thing that came to my mind when you said that was making them, was it teaching them how to fish so that they can live forever? You know
Hmm.
the saying.
Hmm.
I can't get it right now.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
just giving them fish, but teaching them how to fish,
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
part of what you do as well. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and even I'm trying to take it another level. I want them to not only be able to catch the fish, I want them to be able to open and operate the fish business. That's where I'm trying to move them
Yeah.
to, even the next level.
Yeah, feed others.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so social enterprise is the business with the business, and there's a growing group, if you would Google, of social entrepreneurships, and those are folks like me and you and other folks who create businesses, they create programs, they create
Mm,
opportunities that have benefit, and so it's not just the typical business where you have some product that may be in some value of the world,
right.
but the social entrepreneurs like us, we're looking to really make impact using business principles, and that's the real niche for social enterprise and
Yeah.
social entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So in thinking about you as a trainer, as a coach, um, hmm, describe if you can your ideal client. I guess I want to say that. Is this someone who needs to already be doing something? Is it someone that comes to you with a thought or with an idea? Do you have a preference on where that person is on their journey that makes it like, okay, let's get in here with them and work with them?
No, my passion is meeting people where they are, um, helping them to really crystallize their vision,
Hmm.
linking it with passion and purpose, and then coming up with a plan to execute. So I've worked with folks that just had an idea uh, that they've been toying with but haven't made any movement
Hmm.
on, to those who maybe have started, to those who maybe have been doing some enterprise or something for some time but have had some hiccups and either considering giving up, or they need to retool, or they really need someone to help them to really look through the ideas and try to fix it. Because I tell people all the time that failure doesn't exist. This is what we choose to claim,
Hmm.
and when the stuff that we label as a failure, really all it's telling you is you need to change the
Hmm.
process or the step. And it's us who decide to call it a failure instead
Hmm.
of a lesson learned. And anybody that we call a success, they're gonna tell you in their challenges or in those struggles.
Yeah.
That's where they learn. Because if everything's going smooth, if there's really no learning because you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you've got to retool,
Hmm.
that's where the challenge. So I enjoy working with people in on all levels, and I enjoy really sharing with them my struggles, because often people on the outside looking in, they make assumptions
Yep.
that you don't understand.
Yeah.
You haven't had any hard nuts. I've had some of the same challenges. I've had some of the same disappointments. I've
Hmm.
had clients that haven't paid. I've had an idea that you thought it was the best thing since oxygen, but when you get out there and try to implement it, it doesn't work. So I know, and I understand the fear. So I understand, having gone through my own journey, what people, when they want to create something, when they want to
Hmm.
do something, because it takes a lot of courage to really chase after your passion and your dreams. And one of the hardest things, you know, for all of us is leading ourselves, because we are very, very hard on ourselves, and we're encouraging and motivating to other people.
Yeah.
And so I tell people when I'm coaching, not only for enterprise but for leadership, the first key for me for leadership for everybody is learning to embrace and lead yourself
Yeah.
and accept yourself, because you can't lead anybody else until you can lead you and you can accept you. And most of us live in this place that I call if when. We always say we're gonna do something when this happens or when, and so it's like we just put ourselves on hold
Right.
waiting
Waiting
for
on it.
everything to start up, and
Yeah.
you're missing opportunities.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, as we were talking about the other day, it's taking that first step.
Yeah.
That's the most important step.
It is. It really is. And I know that I joke when I say this to a lot of people, but it's true. We're going to meet so that we can have a meeting to decide when we're going to meet for the next meeting to meet about the meeting. And nothing ever gets done because we're always figuring out when are we going to meet, when are we going to meet. Let's meet, let's meet, let's meet. And so you build this circle of just busyness. And I was reading, I didn't hold on to the information, but I was reading from, I think it was in the Huffington Post. Denzel Washington spoke at a commencement service, and he mentioned to the graduates, it's a, I'm paraphrasing it, but don't get caught up in the busy of the, don't get caught up in thinking that you're doing something. When you say you're busy, busy is just busy sometimes, and it's not necessarily progress or progressive. But you mentioned leading in there as well, and leading others. And as I mentioned to you, I'm in a leadership course now through the Georgia Center for Nonprofits, and we have a common thread there because your background is with John Maxwell,
Yes.
and that is what our reading guide is. John Maxwell's book, The Five Levels of Leadership, and in thinking about people and um, them feeling that the conflicts, the failures, the I'm going to stop right here, I'm never going to move, whatever that hurdle is for them. And then, and in thinking about a leader, I think it's kind of important, and I'm not really paraphrasing it right, and you can help me, of course. In thinking about a leader, that is not something, what I want to say here. I think that maybe some people get stuck on that feeling of being a leader because they think that that's positional. You know, if I'm not the CEO, if I'm not the ED, if I don't have that title, then how can I possibly be a leader? And since I don't have the title, I'm going to stop right here because I failed because I have not attained the title. And then there are the other ones who get that title and they get in there and people don't like them. They're not progressing the organization or progressing the people. So then they stop. You know, I must be doing something wrong. Here I am with this title, and I should look and behave and move a certain way, but I'm not doing that. So that word leadership is very important. It's very important.
Really, it is, and you hit on two important points, that leadership is not about a box on an organizational chart. It is not about a title. It is a set of values. It's a set of actions, and it's inspiring others. You know, to really recognize greatness in themselves. I have had the privilege of going through John Maxwell's certification program, and in that, not only a lot of his books and materials, but really just his philosophy of leadership and action, and what he teaches and coaches to us. Everybody's a leader, and this is where people miss it, because it's not about the title. It's
Yeah.
not about uh, having the corner office. And he tells this funny story when he first started out, and he was about to be interviewed by Success Magazine. He didn't have an office, and he said so. Before they were coming, he said, "Oh, let me make an office." So they took a broom closet and turned it into an office. And he said when they came, they had to move the table to get in. He said the person was looking at like, "He's the CEO." He said that, He was like, it's not an office.
Yeah.
And a dear colleague of his who came to our training was the CEO of Chick-fil-A.
Hmm.
And he was saying he parks the furthest away from the building. That, you know, it's when you're leading, it's demonstrating to folks, you know, that we're all a part, you know, of this team.
Hmm.
And John Maxwell always tells that a true leader is not trying to create a host of followers. What they're trying to just do is create the next generation of leaders.
Leaders, right.
And I guess why I went to the certification and why leadership is so important is if you look at all of the challenges that we're having, no matter what sector,
Mm.
it's the leadership issue
Hmm. Hmm.
and the lack thereof. And when a leader is absent of vision, if they can't harness, the team, if you can't get people, to trust you, you can't communicate that vision. And you look at almost in everything from education, employment, it's the
It's the
leadership.
leadership. Yeah.
And so learning how to use kind of the processes, because there's the managing part of it,
Hmm.
but the leadership, and they go hand in hand. But leadership is kind of part art and science. You got to have a respect for the people that you're working with and see value. You
Yeah.
adding value to them, and they're adding value to you, because in my experiences, and I've seen it, people get caught up in the title. That's just what you're doing to make money.
Right.
But that doesn't say anything about your level of intelligence, what you got to bring to the table.
Right.
And many times I have found those folks that are front level, that are doing the day to day job, they would usually have insights that the person in the corner office doesn't have because they're so far removed.
Yeah.
And so they can give valuable insight. And this is why a lot of organizations are having trouble with the talent that they need, and this is why a lot of workers are having trouble
Hmm.
because they don't see themselves as leaders,
Right.
and they're used to somebody just giving them instructions on what to do. And
Hmm.
in the 2015 workplace, everybody has to think. Everybody got to be looking at how can we improve the process? What can we do? What can we do to make customers happier? What can we do to really connect? So everybody is a leader, and so equipping people, of all ages, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot more programs that are for youth, positive youth
Right.
development, that have infused leadership in it in early age,
Yeah.
because leading yourself is the hardest thing that we have to do on this earth.
Hmm.
And the earlier we start getting, used to that and getting experiences where we're giving back to community, we're giving back to church, and we're learning to, to lead. Because if you look, Charlene, at in organizations, and I hate to say it, you look in the faith community, you have a lot of folks who have never had a leadership opportunity.
Hmm.
And then when they get to lead the community, when they get to lead in the choir, they get to lead the committee, you see all of this, this dysfunction, because whatever the hurt or pain
Mm.
that we have,
Mm.
we don't leave it in the parking lot when we go to work, when we go to church, we bring it inside. And so all of us have been in an organization or a team where there's one person that no matter what idea you say, they say it's not going to work. We tried that.
Yeah.
Or they got something negative to say.
Yeah.
But that goes to the emotional intelligence and some other challenges they have, and they bring it inside to the workplace. And so for a leader to be able to recognize that and be able to coach it and be able to help people move beyond that, because much of the coaching industry and much of the things that coaches are doing, particularly with male leaders, it's really characteristics that come easy for females, and people don't want to accept it. But several well-known universities have researched it and found that women are really born leaders, but we don't trust ourselves to lead because stereotypically we haven't been prepared for it.
Hmm.
But if you look at, consensus building, um, convening, all the skills that coaches are working, particularly with the male leader, it's things that women want. we always saying is, we want everybody to be happy. Everybody, you got everything you need or whatever.
Nurturing, yeah.
And those are now skills that are trying to be built in leadership because everybody, as John Maxwell says, it all begins and ends with leadership.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
all begins in leadership. So that's this leadership study, this leadership. It is so fascinating to me because we all have opportunities for improvement, and once we get I put our egos in the back
Hmm.
pocket
Hmm.
and realize there's no state of perfection. You're always learning,
Right.
and so as a leader, you got to be able to say, "I made a mistake," or "What do you think?" or be able to
Right.
listen. That's real leading,
Right.
and that's what gets your team to really respect you and appreciate you because when you can say that you're wrong, or when you ask them for their ideas, then they start to feel, well, maybe this person does really
Mhm.
respect me. And
Mhm.
so we all got to change our mindset about what leading means,
Yeah.
really.
And that releases productivity.
Exactly.
It releases productivity.
Exactly.
So people that want to have you to coach their teams or coach them individually or come speak at their events or whatever is whatever project or event is going on. Tell us quickly the types of um, events or opportunities that they can contact you to hire you to come and facilitate or to speak at and give your contact information.
Okay, well, I do all kinds of mastermind groups with teams at organizations. I do lunch and learn. I also can come and speak at special events. I can do specialized, training events, particularly if there's some dysfunctions in the team
Hmm.
or you're not getting the level of productivity. People can visit me online at John Maxwell Group / Anita Davis Defoe, and it talks about the range of workshops that I do that
Okay.
range from communication. There's one everybody communicates, few connect.
Hmm.
There's the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. There's I do a lot of my own, but I also do some 20 of John Maxwell inspires that as a certified member of his team, and there's about 3,000 of us globally
Wow.
that work with groups
Hmm.
to really grow their leaders, maybe for first time supervisors, learning how to lead the team, just all of kinds of topics that relate to organization development, leadership building,
Hmm.
team, effectiveness. I do a range of those, and then I can come into organizations and do an analysis and then I can give you some ideas about why you're not getting the level of
Hmm.
productivity that you want. So
Okay.
I do the organizational assessment as well,
It's small and larger businesses.
small and large, to come in and I can tell you, and I can come in and there's some checks and
Hmm.
balances that I can look and I can tell you and make some suggestions on what you can do.
Okay.
But the one thing I would say that all organizations, whether community-based, faith, corporate, that continuous improvement is a territory that we're all in.
Hmm.
And every organization, even if they're doing great, can always do better.
Yeah.
And feedback, often people don't want to have feedback, particularly for customers. Feedback is your friend because the customer tells you what happened, then you know what to fix.
Right.
And so to change your mindset. But if you look particularly in communities of color, we really have a deficit with leadership
Hmm.
and leadership development that we really need to focus on.
Hmm.
Because when you hear the question about who's leading in our communities, what do people answer?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
look around and we see all the things that's happening in organizations. We really have to have the leadership question to know how to really engage and connect with people because that's become a $1 billion business. If you Google employee engagement, Gallup had this study out recently, and they said that in any workplace in America, on any given day, people are giving just about 30%.
Mm.
So that's like having 10 businesses and only own three on any given day. And they
Mm.
were saying there's a disconnect because people want to feel connected to the work and to the mission. And a lot of people don't. A lot of
Yeah.
people are just, they don't have the courage maybe to move on to something they really want to do. Either they worry what people gonna say or what they gonna, think, and they in their heart may know what the career, but they wondering how that's gonna, feel. And
Yeah.
then people will just stay in a miserable situation, and life is too short to be not doing work that you are
Right.
connected to.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that's where the leading of self comes. It's really saying, Anita, you want to do X, Y, Z. Even if I have to do why for a while to make the money till I can
Right.
get that.
Right.
But to be clear, because when you when you are those people that say they so happy and choosing to lead themselves, they doing work that they are passionate
Yeah.
about. That there's a connection,
Yeah.
and you can tell that they don't even feel like they're
Yeah.
working. Their heart sings,
Right.
and that's part of, to me, your clue that you are in alignment with your divine assignment, because they also say that America, the last time they had to figure that America loses $44 billion a year because of career mismatch, where
Hmm.
folks have gone into the career because Uncle Willie was doing it, or they would, or they just
Yep.
saw it, or you can make a lot, but their
Yeah.
heart's not in it, and this is
Right.
why you see so many, doctors going and then they a chef, and you see a lot of them that are doing career shifts
Yeah.
because they really weren't doing what their heart. And after a
Hmm.
while, some of us have to answer the call of spirit. Some of us are able to go through a lifetime and cripple along, but some
Yeah.
of us
Gotta
have to
answer
answer
it.
that call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, I want us to work closer together as I'm going through my 6 months of this leadership um, class that I'm in, and then on the other side of my class, of course, I'm doing my own leading, leading into
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
certification
Mhm.
that I'll be getting. But I definitely want us to do some more talking and some more working together, because a lot of your passions and a lot of your work are things that I'm truly interested in and passionate about as well.
Mhm.
And I think that with the two of us working together and talking together, we can maybe make a dent,
Mhm.
even if it's just in our own circle of people in our own
Mhm.
communities. Let's just make some dents, and eventually those dents are gonna open up something.
I would love to. And I heard you say it was the Georgia Association of Nonprofits, and in the nonprofit sector, the realization that creating new leaders and really upskilling the current leaders is a major thing that needs to be done. And so, a lot of nonprofit support organizations I'm finding nationwide are really bringing up this leadership question, because they more and more they're seeing that in the end, it in in John's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws, Law 1 is called the Law of the Lid. And the Law of the Lid says that no organization, its effectiveness, can ever exceed the effectiveness of the leader, which makes sense. So, if a leader's at five, the organization's gonna hover at five because they can't motivate people
Right.
at another level. They can't operate.
Right.
And so I always, a lot of times I ask people, have they heard of the law to live? And then when they haven't, but when you stop to think, and just the things that he has in that first book, it helps you to
Yeah.
stretch your mind about the practice of leadership. And he does leadership training not only in the corporate sector or all
Mhm.
around the world,
Mhm.
but through Equip with church
Yeah.
faith leaders around the world,
Mhm.
because t- you need, even more importantly there, to be able to harness and steward folks that are in the faith community, and he
Yeah.
he does that worldwide. And I just think that you and I, could partner, and some other folks to really, because
Mhm.
we've really got to elevate the practice of leadership in our communities.
Absolutely. And one thing that I say a lot, people talk about how women are. I guess a lot of it is negative, but
Mhm.
I'm going to use it anyway. How
Mhm.
a lot of women are behaving and responding, and what they'll say is, "Wow, men used to do that, whatever that thing is,
Mhm.
and now
Mhm.
women are doing it." And what I tell them is, men are the head.
Mhm.
The body cannot do anything that the head is not.
Mhm.
tell it to do, lead
Mhm.
it to do. This is where all of the activity happens. The
Mhm.
brain is the reason that all those the different what do you call them? Those organs and
Mhm.
choices and decisions, they all happen in the head.
Mhm.
And the body has to respond and react to whatever is being told up here.
Mhm.
So when we see man, the physical man
Mhm.
doing this, doing that, and the other, the body can't do anything but, oh, well, men
Mhm.
are behaving
Mhm.
this way, then women are going to
Mhm.
behave this way.
Mhm.
And not to say that we don't have a choice. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
make it sound like we're clueless or
Mhm.
anything like
Mhm.
that. But in the divine order of things, if man was it was ordained as the head of, you know, man
Mhm.
and woman,
Mhm.
then the body has to respond to that.
Mhm.
And in
Mhm.
thinking about the church, you mentioned how important it is to have leaders that become accountable, that become people of morality and
Mhm.
character and things of that.
Mhm.
And it's so critical because we run to that place
Mhm.
to find this is a hospital for so many
Mhm.
people, and
Mhm.
whatever you can get in a hospital,
Mhm.
any
Mhm.
part of the body to go there and get healed, then we definitely need people who are in those organizations to look different, even though we don't want to worship
Mhm.
or put those people on pedestals. We're
Mhm.
going to do it anyway, and
Mhm.
we have an expectation that they're going to show up a certain way,
Mhm.
um, even if that's the lowest level of showing up. We
Mhm.
still want you to show up and be.
Mhm.
Can you just please just be do what you say you're gonna
Mhm.
do. I
Mhm.
mean, just some
Mhm.
basic things.
Mhm.
Do what you say you're gonna do. Be a person of character. Be a person of morality. Be
Mhm.
consistent.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm.
So I think this leadership conversation is definitely here. And more prevalent than it used to be. I mean,
Mhm.
it's always been here, but
Mhm.
it's like a buzzword right
Mhm.
now, and
Mhm.
I think it needs to be. It
Mhm.
definitely needs to
Mhm.
be.
And I think the conversation with leadership with women, because you look at this next generation of young ladies and what they are, far too many of them, I'll say, I won't generalize, what they are using to define who they are
Mhm.
really is not indicative of leading self.
Mhm.
And when you see the confusion um, that you see amongst women. And so I think spending time really talking with women about leading and helping them to understand leading and respect.
Right.
I'll never forget I was speaking one Women's History Month at Johnson C. Smith University, and I was talking about from my one of my books, and I was talking about the seven keys for soulful living, and I talked about relationships, and I was saying that women have to be very careful, you know, this whole thing where you just kicking it with someone. That men view kicking it very differently,
Yep.
and I said, and I was joking. I said, well, on page 10 in the man's handbook, men treat us as we require. But most of the time, we don't require
Yeah.
anything, and anything goes. And it
Yeah.
was a couple men in the room. The director of student services happened to be a man, and I said, "Would you agree, gentlemen?" He started laughing. He said, "Well, actually, Dr. Defoe," he said, "it's on page one." And he said afterwards, he said, "I thank you so much for saying that." He said, "Because as a man," he said, "on our campus, the girls are stalking the boys like me." And
Right.
he said, and then when things go sour, they're so hurt.
Yeah.
He said, and you can't tell them, and then they're so broken. He said, and it's like they don't respect themselves.
Yeah.
And so, as two generations of women, we really got to help each other to realize to respect yourself, to lead yourself, because
Mhm.
it's easy for us to get our hearts and our spirits broken, and then you can't really function in your divine assignment, because
Yeah.
you try to perhaps manipulate situations, or you don't love and lead yourself, and you're looking for something
Mhm.
outside of yourself to define who you are. And so this whole thing with leading women, it goes beyond, far beyond just in the workplace.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
really how we lead ourselves and be in the world. Because
Yeah.
if we would change, I truly believe that, and it would require men to change, because as it's always saying, if you you educate a woman, you educate the nation,
Right.
and that can make some changes throughout. But if as women we kind of clueless and we going with anything, we don't realize how we're working to cripple the community as well. We're contributing to it anyway.
I think I was thinking about that the other day, and we're going to wrap up because
Mhm.
I'm well over my time. But I was thinking about that the other day, and just so many people that I talk to that are really passionate about
Mhm.
empowering women,
Mhm.
and I am too. I totally get that.
Mhm.
But you hear very little about empowering men,
Mhm.
and then so we have all these women who are empowered, they're strong, they're grounded or whatever those wonderful things happen to them, and then we go back out into this world and we have these men who haven't been touched by these empowered women,
Mhm.
or we
Mhm.
go into these relationships and think that they're supposed to be one thing because it's a
Mhm.
man and a woman,
Mhm.
and it's nothing to do
Mhm.
with that man woman
Mhm.
relationship. And then we get back in this other bubble again. We gotta
Mhm.
go, okay, gotta come back over here and build myself back up because
Mhm.
that thing that I thought was for that purpose was not that thing
Mhm.
at all.
Mhm.
So I think somewhere during, like you were saying, once we're empowered, we empower the
Mhm.
nation.
Mhm.
I think that I think the two trains should be running, and that the men need to seek out,
Mhm.
whether it's groups or like you mentioned, online studying
Mhm.
opportunities,
Mhm.
something,
Mhm.
even in their own empowerment moments. I
Mhm.
just really feel strongly that that needs to be a bigger conversation, and especially too in thinking about the all the hits and everything that have been happening against specifically our black men as it
No.
pertains to law enforcement.
Mhm.
How do we, the mamas, if
Mhm.
you will,
Mhm.
the women, how do we build up, empower, strengthen, motivate,
Mhm.
encourage,
Mhm.
uh, build this leader that's
Mhm.
it's in there.
Mhm.
We
It
know it's in
definitely
there.
it is.
But how do we get beyond the man this and the man that and
Mhm.
da, and find that leader that is in there and
Mhm.
just either yank him out, if,
Mhm.
depending on the person, you
Mhm.
can just yank it out,
Mhm.
but just massage that thing back to the surface. And we're not going to be able to solve all
Well,
that
that's.
here, but that's a conversation,
Mhm.
because I this is way off, kind of way off subject, but at one church service, as we were closing out the service, the minister asked us to turn to the person by us and pray for him.
Mhm.
And I was sitting by a young man. He might have been early to mid 20s.
Mhm.
And all I knew to pray for him was, as soon as you walk out of these four walls, all the rules are going to change.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're going to change.
Mhm.
You're a man of color.
Mhm.
You, I mean, all of them. Whether it's
Mhm.
in the workplace, it's in education, whether
Mhm.
it is in your
Mhm.
family, it's in
Mhm.
law enforcement, it's in your health. As soon as you step foot out that door,
Mhm.
it's all going to change. And
Mhm.
if you don't get what you need in somebody's four walls, it doesn't have to be that four walls,
Mhm.
but in somebody's four walls, if you don't get what you need, that thing, as soon as you step over the line, can bring you to a place where we have to
Mhm.
then come in and get our brick and mortar and
Mhm.
build you back up
Mhm.
and build you
Mhm.
back up and build
Mhm.
that barrier around them
Mhm.
so that they won't get hit as hard when they walk out the walls.
Mhm. I know it's when you look at all of us in general, but males in particular don't. It's like they don't know who they are. They don't know their and recognize their own power and strength. Have had some setbacks and haven't had always role models
Yeah,
to say, this is what men do.
right.
This is how men act. Because sometimes women have wanted to stone me when I say this, but I say, as much as a woman can mother and love, is a mother needs someone to help her, because a mother can't teach a man child how to be a boy child how to be a man.
Mhm.
And I think that when you see that, and when you see too that, because I always believe, Charlene, that people tell us really who they are,
Mhm.
and that many times women, we get ourselves in situations we're in the relationship arena where somebody has told us clearly who they are, but we think we can change it or it's going, and then when they turn out to be who we knew they were, so now we hurt and broken, and then we end up sometimes with the child that might have resulted, you know, they become kind of the pawn in it, and if you know, and then you often see that sometimes mothers have strict regulations for the daughter, but the boy child is really the man of the house. He's just doing whatever, and so those things to build him up so that he can get a career, he can do, you know, those things that keep him on a pathway. You know, you don't know who he's hanging with or whatever. Those are all things that get them adrift, and unfortunate, you know, America was started on pigment, and it continues. Pigmentocracy tends to still rule here, and you see it has gotten, you know, worse, and so we have to realize and know that we came from the original scientists and entrepreneurs. We don't know who we are. And you look sometimes, and I know this is kind of off track, but when you look at folks who come here, say from Africa, from the Caribbean, because they had to hustle, because typically they have come from weak economies, so they all had some hustle that now they can come here and maybe formalize into a job. And so you often see, you look, they come and they do better in the economy than African Americans do, and it's the viewpoint. And we have to realize in the end that nobody's going to save us but ourselves. And we have to look for each other. And everybody, I believe so much in the parable of the talents, and I believe that everybody is born with the talent that for if you to harness it and what, that can be your way to make money. And maybe, you know, for many of us working in a workplace that's not. You could create your own job, but to do something so that you respect and you feel good about yourself, then you're less likely to, you know, to fall into the lure of the streets. And I think, and I agree with you that the train has to be going, that it is working on us as women and men too, because a lot of so many of the young men are hurting far deeper than we would know, because they manning up, so they're not going to express it. And many of them are so hurt, and this acting out really is begging somebody to help. And so it has to be. We've got to hold each other's hand. We've got to respect each other, and men and women we have to try to support and uplift each other. Because to me, I hear what you're saying. That's the only way. We can't just focus on one without the other, because we all are being impacted by some of the same pain.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with me. Welcome to It's Just Us.
It was my pleasure. And we talked about doing this for so long, so this was the time. And so I'm so excited. I'm glad that we got this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to us, you know, doing some more things in the future.
Absolutely. We've been talking. Let's see, the show is 7 years old.
I know.
So at least, what, 6 years or something like that? And this is our first time even laying eyes on each other.
Except doing and talking to you guys, know. But I feel like I'm just sitting there with a dear sister friend I haven't seen in a while, you know?
Yep, you are. Right. We are, absolutely. Ooh, again, thank you so much for being here. Let's keep the conversations going. And we're going to make concerted efforts to not just do busy work, but to actually do progressive work. Let's make that happen.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Come again?
Indeed.
Okay.
All right.
I am Charlene Bowden with Dr. Anita Davis Defoe. It's Just Us. Thank you so much for tuning in.